Are you ready to embark on a journey through one of the world's most extraordinary churches? Hi everyone, my name is Mary, and I will be your host. Welcome to this Sacred Spaces series where we explore the hidden stories behind sacred places from around the globe. And today we are showcasing Episode 7, Sagrada Família, Gaudi's unfinished masterpiece. The Basilica I Temple Expiatory de la Sagrada Família, otherwise known as Sagrada Família, is a church under construction in the I Example district of Barcelona, Catalonia, Spain. It is the largest unfinished Catholic church in the world, designed by the Catalan architect Antoni Gaudí, 1852 to 1926. In 2005, his work on Sagrada Família was added to an existing 1984 UNESCO World Heritage Site. Works of Antoni Gaudí. On the 7th of November 2010, Pope Benedict XVI consecrated the church and proclaimed it a minor basilica. On the 19th of March 1882, construction of Sagrada Família began under architect Francisco de Paula del Villa. In 1883, when Villa resigned, Gaudí took over as chief architect, transforming the project with his architectural and engineering style, combining Gothic and curvilinear Art Nouveau forms. Gaudí devoted the remainder of his life to the project, and he is buried in the church's crypt. At the time of his death in 1926, less than a quarter of the project was complete. Relying solely on private donations, Sagrada Família's construction progressed slowly and was interrupted by the Spanish Civil War. In July 1936, anarchists from the FE set fire to the crypt and broke their way into the workshop, partially destroying Gaudí's original plans. In 1939, Francesc de Paula Quintana took over site management, which was able to go on with the material that was saved from Gaudí's workshop, and that was reconstructed from published plans and photographs. Construction resumed to intermittent progress in the 1950s. Advancements in technologies such as computer-aided design and computerized numerical control, CNC, have since enabled faster progress. And construction passed the midpoint in 2010. In 2014, it was anticipated that the building would be completed by 2026, the centenary of Gaudí's death, but this schedule was threatened by work slowdowns caused by the COVID-19 pandemic. In March 2024, an updated forecast reconfirmed a likely completion of the building in 2026. Though the announcement stated that work on sculptures, decorative details, and a controversial stairway leading to the main entrance is expected to continue until 2034. Describing Sagrada Família, art critic Rainer Zerb said, "It is probably impossible to find a church building anything like it in the entire history of art." And Paul Goldberger describes it as the most extraordinary personal interpretation of Gothic architecture since the Middle Ages. Though sometimes described as a cathedral, the basilica is not the cathedral church of the Archdiocese of Barcelona. That title belongs to the Cathedral of the Holy Cross and Saint Eulalia, or Barcelona Cathedral. Sagrada Família was inspired by a bookseller, José María Bocabella, founder of Association Espiritual de Devotos de San José, or Spiritual Association of Devotees of Saint Joseph. After a visit to the Vatican in 1872, Bocabella returned from Italy with the intention of building a church inspired by the basilica at Loreto. The apse crypt of the church, funded by donations, was begun the 19th of March 1882. On the Festival of Saint Joseph, to the design of the architect Francisco de Paula del Villa, whose plan was for a Gothic revival church of a standard form. The apse crypt was completed before Villiers' resignation on the 18th of March 1883. When Antoni Gaudí assumed responsibility for its design, which he changed radically. Gaudí began work on the church in 1883, but was not appointed architect director until 1884. On the subject of the extremely long construction period, Gaudí is said to have remarked, "My client is not in a hurry." When Gaudí died in 1926, the basilica was between 15 and 25% complete. After Gaudí's death, work continued under the direction of his main disciple, Domènec Sagrains i Gras, until interrupted by the Spanish Civil War in 1936. Parts of the unfinished basilica, and Gaudi's models and workshop were destroyed during the war. The present design is based on reconstructed versions of the plans that were burned in a fire, as well as on modern adaptations. Since 1940, the architects Frances Quintana, Isidore Pugboda, Cui Sponde Agari, and Francis Cardonier have carried on the work. The illumination was designed by Carles Buigas. The director, until 2012, was the son of Louis Sponde, Jordi Bone di Armengol. Armengol began introducing computers into the design and construction process in the 1980s. The central nave vaulting was completed in 2000, and the main tasks since then have been the construction of the transept vaults and apse. In 2002, the Sagrada Família Schools building was relocated from the eastern corner of the site to the southern corner and began housing an exhibition. The school was originally designed by Gaudí in 1909 for the children of the construction workers. As of 2006, work concentrated on the crossing and supporting structure for the main steeple of Jesus Christ, as well as the southern enclosure of the central nave, which will become the glory facade. Computer-aided design technology has allowed stone to be shaped off-site by a CNC milling machine, whereas in the 20th century, the stone was carved by hand. In 2008, some renowned Catalan architects advocated halting construction to respect Gaudí's original designs, which, although they were not exhaustive and were partially destroyed, have been partially reconstructed in recent years. Since 2013, AVE high-speed trains have passed near Sagrada Família through a tunnel that runs beneath the center of Barcelona. The tunnel's construction, which began on the 26th of March 2010, was controversial. The Ministry of Public Works of Spain, or Ministerio de Fomento, claimed the project posed no risk to the church. Sagrada Família engineers and architects disagreed, saying there was no guarantee that the tunnel would not affect the stability of the building. The board of the Sagrada Família, or Patronat de la Sagrada Família, and the neighborhood association Ave Pela Litoral, Ave by the Coast, led a campaign against this route for the Ave, without success. In October 2010, the tunnel boring machine reached the church underground under the location of the building's principal facade. Service through the tunnel was inaugurated on the 8th of January 2013. Track in the tunnel makes use of a system by Etalon Cedra, in which the rails are embedded in an elastic material to dampen vibrations. The main nav was covered and an organ installed in mid-2010, allowing the still unfinished building to be used for liturgies. The church was consecrated by Pope Benedict XVI on the 7th of November 2010 in front of a congregation of 6,500 people. A further 50,000 people followed the consecration mass from outside the basilica, where more than 100 bishops and 300 priests were on hand to distribute Holy Communion. In 2012, Barcelona-born Jordi Fali Ayala took over as architect of the project. Mark Burry of New Zealand serves as executive architect and researcher. Sculptures by J. Busquets, Etsuro Satu, and Josep Maria Subarax decorate the fantastical facades. Chief architect Jordi Fali announced in October 2015 that construction was 70% complete and had entered its final phase of raising 6 immense steeples. The steeples and most of the church's structure were planned to be completed by 2026, the centennial of Gaudí's death. As of a 2017 estimate, decorative elements should be complete by 2030 or 2032. Visitor entrance fees of €15. €220 finance the annual construction budget of €25 million. Completion of the structure will use post-tension stone. Starting on the 9th of July 2017, an international mass is celebrated at the Basilica every Sunday and Holy Day of Obligation at 9 a.m. and is open to the public until the church is full. Occasionally, Mass is celebrated at other times, where attendance requires an invitation. When Masses are scheduled, instructions to obtain an invitation are posted on the Basilica's website. In addition, visitors may pray in the Chapel of the Blessed Sacrament and Penitence. The stone initially used in its construction came from the Montserrat mountain, but it became clear that, as quarrying there went deeper, the stone was increasingly fragile and an alternative source had to be found. Since 2018, stone of the type needed to complete the construction has been sourced from the Withnell Quarry in Bristol, near Chorley, England. The style of Sagrada Familia is variously likened to Spanish Late Gothic, Catalan Modernism, or Art Nouveau, while the style falls within the Art Nouveau period. Nicolaus Pevsner points out that, along with Charles Rennie Mackintosh in Glasgow, Scotland, Gaudí carried the Art Nouveau style far beyond its usual application as a surface decoration. While never a cathedral, Sagrada Familia was planned from the outset to be a large building, comparable in size to a cathedral. Its ground plan has obvious links to earlier Spanish cathedrals such as Burgos Cathedral, Leon Cathedral, and Seville Cathedral. In common with Catalan and many other European Gothic cathedrals, Sagrada Familia is short in comparison to its width and has a great complexity of parts, which include double aisles, an ambulatory with a chevet of 7 apsidal chapels, a multitude of steeples, and 3 portals, each widely different in structure as well as ornament, where it is common for cathedrals in Spain to be surrounded by numerous chapels and ecclesiastical buildings. The layout of Sagrada Familia has an unusual feature: a covered passage or cloister, which forms a rectangle enclosing the church and passing through the narthex of each of its 3 portals. With this peculiarity aside, the plan, influenced by Villiers' crypt, barely hints at the complexity of Gaudí's design or its deviations from traditional church architecture. There are no exact right angles to be seen inside or outside the church, and few straight lines in the design. Gaudí's original design calls for a total of 18 spires, representing in ascending order of height the 12 apostles, the 4 evangelists, the Virgin Mary, and, tallest of all, Jesus Christ. 13 spires had been completed as of 2023, corresponding to 4 apostles at the Nativity facade, 4 apostles at the Passion facade, the 4 evangelists, and the Virgin Mary. The evangelist spires are surmounted by sculptures of their traditional symbols: a winged bull St. Luke, a winged man St. Matthew, an eagle St. John, and a winged lion St. Mark. The central spire of Jesus Christ is to be surmounted by a giant cross. Its total height, 172.5 meters, 565.9 feet, will be less than that of Montjuic Hill in Barcelona. As Gaudí believed that his creation should not surpass God's, the lower spires are surmounted by communion hosts with sheaves of wheat and chalices with bunches of grapes, representing the Eucharist. Plans call for tubular bells to be placed within the spires, driven by the force of the wind and driving sound down into the interior of the church. Gaudí performed acoustic studies to achieve the appropriate acoustic results inside the temple. However, only one bell is currently in place. The completion of the Jesus Christ spire will make Sagrada Familia the tallest church building in the world, 11 meters or 36.1 feet, taller than the current record holder, Ol Minster, which is 161.5 meters or 529.9 feet, at its highest point. On the 29th of November 2021, a 7 meters or 23 feet, 12-pointed illuminated crystal star was installed on one of the main towers of the basilica dedicated to the Virgin Mary. The Sagrada Familia's 3 great facades, the Nativity, the Passion, and the Glory, tell the story of Christ's life, death, and resurrection. The Nativity facade, with its graceful lines and depiction of biblical scenes, symbolizes hope and the birth of Christ. The Passion facade, still in progress, will depict the suffering and crucifixion of Christ, representing sacrifice and redemption. And the Glory facade portrays Christ's resurrection and ascension, offering a glimpse of heaven and the ultimate triumph of good over evil. Inside the basilica, sunlight pours through the colorful stained glass windows, creating a breathtaking atmosphere of prayer and beauty. The light dances across the intricate stonework and creates a sense of awe and wonder in those who enter. The basilica's organic forms and use of natural materials, such as wood and stone, create a warm and inviting atmosphere that encourages contemplation and spiritual reflection. The columns of the interior are a unique, gaudy design, sides branching to support their load. Their ever-changing surfaces are the result of the intersection of various geometric forms. The simplest example is that of a square base evolving into an octagon as the column rises, then a 16-sided form, and eventually to a circle. This effect is the result of a three-dimensional intersection of helicoidal columns. For example, a square cross-section column twisting clockwise and a similar one twisting counterclockwise. Essentially, none of the interior surfaces are flat. The ornamentation is comprehensive and rich, consisting in large part of abstract shapes which combine smooth curves and jagged points. Even detail-level works such as the iron railings for balconies and stairways are full of curvaceous elaboration. In 2010, an organ was installed in the chancel by the Blancafort Organers de Montserrat organ builders. The instrument has 26 stops, 1,492 pipes, on 2 manuals and a piddleboard. Despite being unfinished, the Sagrada Familia continues to be a place of worship and a destination for pilgrims and tourists alike. It stands as a symbol of faith, patience, and devotion expressed through art. As we conclude our journey through the Sagrada Familia, you're left in awe of Gaudi's genius and the enduring legacy of this extraordinary basilica. It is a place where history, art, and spirituality converge, leaving visitors with a profound sense of wonder and inspiration. If you enjoyed this episode, please don't forget to like and subscribe to stay updated on our latest adventures. We would love to hear your thoughts on the Sagrada Familia and its significance in the world of sacred architecture. Has this episode inspired you to plan a visit to this magnificent basilica or to explore other sacred sites around the world? See you next time, and God bless you always.